I'm Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today we're going to talk about 5 ways that you can ruin your health. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some practical information, and you can look at that or not. Most people don't. And then I'm going to run through the other suggestions through paradoxical interventions. Now, we've gone over this on some other shows, so I'm not going to explain it now. Go back over those other shows because that's important to know, as we go through the 5 ways to ruin your life. So let's look at number 1. We need to train your brain for failure. And this is pretty easy to do, actually, because the mind is like a muscle, so you can condition it to do anything you want. So if you think about failure all the time, and you think about negativity, the more you do it, the easier it gets. Now, the Buddha said, you become what you think. So in this case, we just have to think about failure and negativity all the time. So this is how we can start. It's a 3-step program. Number 1, you can cultivate negative thoughts about yourself. Number 2, you can start to cultivate negative thoughts about the world and all the other people around you. And number 3, you can start to cultivate negative thoughts about your future. So it kind of goes like this. So you wake up in the morning and you start to think about all the things that you don't have. Think about you're a terrible person, you don't have any skills, you're not that smart, you just don't look good enough, you're just not enough. And then look at the world and see how the world is against you, and it's a horrible place. It's a mean, scary place. And all the people around you, they're all out to get you. You can't trust anybody. They all want to see you fail. And then look at your future and just say, well, you have no future, it can't get better. And you can do this. And again, this will put you along the path towards being a failure in your life and ruining your health. Now, Dr. Aaron Beck, he called this the cognitive negative triad, which is very important. He was a leader in psychology for a lot of years. He believed that this negative triad was the #1 cause of depression. So if you get good at it, you can put yourself in depression. Now, this triad has also been correlated to a lot of other things that might interest you. And here are some of them. It will raise your anxiety. It's correlated to suicidal thoughts, suicidal attempts. It's correlated to feeling helpless about your life and hopeless about your life. And so if you want to go down that direction, again, go with what Dr. Aaron Beck said. Make sure you tell yourself that you're a horrible person, have a bad outlook on life, and have a bad outlook on your future. So here's the treatment plan in order to keep this rolling. So the Buddha said that you should be grateful. In other words, you wake up in the morning and you think about gratitude, about all the things in your life that you have, and all the people maybe that have helped you, or any other good thing that you had in life. And then you could start your day that way. The first thing you could say is that you woke up. That's something good to be grateful for. But we're not going to do that. We're going to be ungrateful. So I want you to wake up every morning and think about 3 things that you're not grateful for. Think about, say, your family that you hate, your job that you hate, life itself that you hate, and we want to meditate on that, because that really starts off your day in a very positive way. Or in this sense, it's positive to be a failure. The other thing you want to do is you want to become an expert at magnifying all the problems, and you want to minimize the solutions. So whatever you think about tends to grow. So what we want to do is we want to magnify every problem in the world, and we want to try to never look at any of the solutions. That's what successful people do, and that's what optimists do. But we don't want to do that. So we want to sit in our pain, and we want to be failures. So again, that's the first way. We need to train your brain for failure. So number 2 on the ways to ruin your health, absolutely 0 physical activity. What you want is you want your body to be as soft, as run down, out of shape, and tired as possible. That way, the vessel that you're working in really is of no use to you, and probably of no use to anybody else. And again, you could ruin your health that way, and probably everybody else around you will suffer as well. Now, know this, looking good, feeling good, being in shape, being healthy, it's been correlated to improved mental health. It's correlated to obviously increasing your physical health. It increases your self-esteem. You'll have a better social life. You'll have a better sex life. Did I say you'll have a better sex life? It's correlated to better financial success. And overall, you'll just have a better quality of life. But you don't want that, because you already know that. You already know that working out, being healthy, physical activity is good. You've heard it, but you choose to ignore it. So what we're going to do is, we're going to go to the other side. This is what we want to do on our treatment plan. Never, ever, ever break a sweat. It's bad for you. Don't run. Not when you can walk. And don't walk when you can stand. And don't stand when you can sit. And if you can sit, I bet you can lie down. And if you can lie down, I bet you can go back to bed and go to sleep. Because that's what failures do. And that's really what we're aiming for here. Don't spend any extra calories on your body. It's just not worth it. Listen, it's overrated that your heart is an important organ. You don't need it. It's not that important. Just don't worry about stuff like that. Here's something else. Never, ever think about going to the gym. You don't want to go there. There's mirrors there. You might get a look at yourself. And again, if you're thinking negatively, you don't want to see yourself. You're probably going to think really bad things of yourself. And you know what's at gyms, besides mirrors? Narcissists. And why are they narcissists? We call them that because we don't like them, because they actually care about how they look and they take care of themselves. Oh my God, those people who put themselves first. Those horrible narcissistic people who get up at 3:45 in the morning to make sure they do something for themselves before they start working and doing things for the world. Terrible people. You don't want to get around that. You just want to stay in bed all day. Never go to a gym. But if you do, and you just take a wrong turn and you end up in a gym parking lot with the thought maybe you want to go to a gym for some reason, here's the thing. You want to drive around the parking lot like 50, 75, 100 times. What you're doing is you're trying to look for the closest space to the door. Because then when you get into the gym, then you get on the treadmill, it makes no sense, right? I see this garbage all the time. People sit there, circle the parking lot to get the most perfect space because they don't want to walk any further through the parking lot. And they complain that it's too busy. They have to walk a long distance to get into the gym. To walk on a treadmill? And that leads to the other thing. If you don't have enough money to go to a gym, listen, that's okay too. Don't go to a park. Parks are just, I don't know what they're there for. But people sell drugs there. That's what they do, right? I'm pretty sure. Don't go to a park. Don't do anything fun. Don't play Frisbee. Nothing like that. Don't go for a walk. You don't want to do that. Parks are, oh, that's right, they're free, but that's okay. Make another excuse. Also, if you want to do sit-ups or push-ups, all you need is a floor. All you need is a ground. Do you have that? Maybe. You would have to. When you get drunk and you fall down, you hit the ground, right? Well, So there is a ground. While you're there on the ground, sleeping, why don't you roll over at some point? Try a couple of sit-ups. Try a couple of push-ups. You can do that if you were inclined to do that. But you know what? Just skip it. That's just too much work. So let's not do that. And if any time you have to go to a building or something like that, you got to go to a doctor's appointment, don't think about taking the stairs. That's ridiculous. There's no reason for that. Listen, there's a lot of people who went through a lot of time and energy to make elevators. So just press the button, go up in the elevator, no one's the wiser. Don't worry. Your heart will thank you later. Number 3, on how to ruin your health. Never eat real food. That's something you don't want to do. And while you're doing that, because what you're eating is not real food, it might be edible, might go through your system, but it's not real food. Make sure that you eat as much as possible. This whole thing about portion control, that's for the losers. Like, we don't want to do that, okay? We're trying to ruin our health. You might be asking, what is real food? I'll tell you. It grows on trees, it grows in the ground. We're talking fruits and vegetables. You know, when you walk into the supermarket, it's on the sides. They make you walk a little further, right? It's not all that junk in boxes like right up the center, you know, when you go into a supermarket. You know, fruits and vegetables. Also, if it used to run, swim, jump, fly, you know, we're talking chicken, turkey, fish, tuna, things like this, red meat. You can eat that too. That's real food. Here's the thing. Real food doesn't have 85 ingredients in it, all of which you can't pronounce and you can't spell. Real food has one ingredient, you know, like a peach. That's a food. Broccoli, that's a food. But you know what? Stay away from that. You don't want to do it. You want to complicate your life. So we don't want to do any of that. Here's the other thing too. Did you know that nutritious food is correlated to a healthy weight? Ooh, who would have known that, right? Now, don't tell me you feel good about who you are and you don't need a healthy weight. Nobody cares. They say that, but I think you're lying to yourself because most people care about what they look like in clothes or out of clothes. So don't lie to yourself. A healthy weight's important. It also correlates to having a good memory. Now, if you're doing all these things to ruin your health, I get it. You probably don't have any good memories, right? Because you're not doing anything that's worthwhile. But let's just assume that you do. And, you know, having a good memory could be very important to you. It improves your brain health overall. It improves your mood. A good diet will make good, strong bones, teeth, muscles, skin, hair. But you don't need any of that. That's not important. You think this guy cares about his hair? I think so. She cares. That I know for sure. Actually, there's probably too many benefits to eating well. So, well, actually, you know, did I mention that it improves your sex life? And most likely, it will create a more fruitful, longer life. And it improves your sex life. Did I mention that? Yeah, anyway, there's just too many things to mention. So let's move on to your treatment plan. Now, there's a French proverb that says you are what you eat. And I agree with that. So in our treatment plan, here's your goal. Your goal is to be fast. Your goal is to be cheap, and your goal is to be fake. I just described about 75% of the people I know in Las Vegas, but that's a whole nother story. So in order to be fast, cheap, and fake, you need to eat foods like that. So you need to go to fast food places. You need to eat, quote unquote, food from a box. Food doesn't come in a box. You need to eat food that are in cans and in bags, like chips. What food group is that? I don't know. We don't care. We're not trying to be healthy, right? Skip it. The food that you eat, food products, you want to make sure that they contain as much dye as possible. Bright colors, you know, because that's natural. So we want to eat as much dye as possible. We want to have as much poison as possible. We want to have as much preservatives as possible. We want the food stuff that we eat, make sure it has the ability to sit on a shelf for 10 years. And then when you eat it, it can slowly contribute to destroying your self-esteem, your physical health, and your mental health. Sounds like a good plan. Oh, by the way, fast food, it's not fast. It's not food, and it's not cheap. Fast. If you have to leave where you are to get in a car to fight traffic, and then wait in line with a bunch of other yahoos that don't know how to meal prep, guess what? It's not fast. It's not food. A McDonald's hamburger has about 9 grams of protein. That comes out to be about 1.5 ounces of protein. I have a pug who weighs 25 pounds who has cancer. She's downstairs right now. She eats way more than that, way in one meal. And she's a 25-pound pug. You think that a hamburger from McDonald's is made for human consumption? Absolutely not. And if you want to go on a ketogenic diet and you want to hit into ketosis, meaning that you need to do that by having low or no carbs, if you were to take the bun off the hamburger and just eat the hamburger from McDonald's, you still can't get into ketosis. Why? Because there's a bunch of additives and cornstarch in it. Sugar, cornstarch, additives in your meat. It's not natural, it's not meat, it's not food. So again, not fast, not food, not cheap. Why? Because what human being could live off of like 1 ounce of a hamburger? How many are you gonna have to get? 20? 10? Along with the white bread that's absolute garbage? Let's have a real conversation here for a second. For about $5, you can go to the store right now and get a 5-pound bag of potatoes, which is a lot of potatoes. For about a little bit more, I think it's like $7 maybe, for about a 5-pound bag of apples, which is like 10 apples. That's a lot. And then on top of that, you can get a top of the line nutritious bread, like Ezekiel bread. Top of the line, 9 grain. You can get that for like $4. So what are we looking at here? $15, and you have more carbohydrates to satisfy a human being for like 2-3 weeks maybe? For $15, one person. Don't tell me that this other food is fast and food and it's cheap. None of those are true. But you know what? You do you, okay? Stick with the garbage. Number 4, on how to ruin your life. You want to make sure that you isolate yourself from other people. Now, we can do this in a couple different ways. Not just you, but if you have a child, you can start them young. So what you want to do is you want to get your kids with a head start on isolating them. So what you can do is you can homeschool them. All right? Now, this is why you should homeschool, because it isolates them from every single child that's their age in the neighborhood. So it's really good. Make sure you extract them from the community right off. You want to do that. And here's the other good reason. When you go to a building of learning, there's people in there. And some of these people, I forget what they do, right? They have at least a Bachelor of Science degree. And then they have to go through an internship to learn their craft of what they're doing. Oh, it just came to me. These are called teachers. And they go through a tremendous amount of training and education to do what they do. But you know what? I know you work at Carl's Jr., so I'm sure you're qualified to homeschool your child. Absolutely. I think that will work wonders. You know, if we had a whole country of people that did that, I'm sure the next generation, we're going to get a whole bunch of doctors, lawyers, and scientists. Absolutely. Way to go. So this is what we want to do. We want to isolate them from actual education, and we want to isolate them from social connection and other human beings. Lack of social connection is just as destructive as obesity, smoking, and high blood pressure. Now, a strong social connection, it's correlated to increasing your self-esteem, increasing meaning and purpose in your life. It increases empathy and trust and cooperation with others, obviously, because you're having to deal with other people. It correlates to a longer life. It's protective against suicide and drug abuse. It decreases depression, anxiety. Basically, what I'm saying here is that good social connections, it generates a positive feedback loop of social, emotional, and physical well-being. But we don't care about that. That's not important. Screw it. We don't have anything to do with that. So here's our treatment plan. Never let your kids hang out and play with other kids. That's wrong. You don't want them to do that. And again, we can go back to the other. Make sure they stay homeschooled, so like you're the only person that they ever see. That's important. And you can be a role model here too. Never say hello to your neighbors. So you can teach them like other people are scary. We can't connect to them. And make sure your kids are glued to the phone or computer. As it stands right now, the average child spends about 8 hours a day on that garbage. That's 7 days a week, that's 56 hours a week, there's 168 hours in a week. I think we can boost that to about 100. That should really help out our society. Absolutely. So let's go for that. That would be a good goal. Make sure your kids are playing video games, but don't let them go out and play actual real games like football, soccer, basketball, or anything else. We don't want them to actually have any physical activity and learn, how to work well with others. We don't want that. We don't want them to learn about competition either. So stick them on the computer, let them play video games all day. I'm sure that they'll be very upstanding adults. Good chance of that. Now, make sure that you or your child, you want to email and text people all the time. You want to do this so you actually don't have to hear a human voice. And then you can get more and more isolated, more and more narcissistic, and less empathetic. And that bodes well for a really good future. So we want to do that. And make sure that you and your children have about 1,000 friends on Facebook, but not one person that you could sit eyeball to eyeball with and confide in and actually have a real conversation. So that's number 4. So number 5 on your ways to ruin your health. Here we go. I call this a risk multiplier. We have to get really good at this. Because most people have a problem with drugs and alcohol. They're actually using drugs and alcohol as a solution to their underneath problems. So they don't see drugs and alcohol as the problem, right? They think it's a solution. So if you really want to be a failure in life, what you do is you have really tough emotions or really deep-seated problems, and then you multiply it by finding something else in your life that actually increases the chances for you to have even more problems, because we don't want to actually face the issue. So if you think that dealing with feelings is difficult, how about this? It increases your chances of dying from car accidents, and increases your chances of dying in some type of violence when you drink alcohol, to make sure you anesthetize yourself from your feelings. Here's more. Alcohol weakens every organ of the body. It weakens the immune system. Obviously, it increases your chances of being sick and having diseases. It causes learning problems, memory problems, financial problems, social problems, other family problems, mental health issues. But to be fair, if you're already drinking alcohol and doing drugs to mask your problems, you already have mental health issues. But again, you're multiplying your issues here. And again, multiplying your risk for even more issues is the move of a person who's looking to fail and ruin their life. And did I say that it causes sexual problems? Did I mention that it causes sexual problems? Alcohol, I can't say it's responsible, but it is involved with people trying to use it to soothe themselves. It's involved in 95,000 deaths per year, which equates to 2.8 million years of potential life lost each and every year in the United States. And this is just alcohol. This is not all the other drugs that all these other people like to seek. Their meaning and purpose is, ooh, let me get marijuana, let me get heroin, let me get whatever drug of choice, my drug of choice. You know what your drug of choice is? Your drug of choice is anything to take you out of your actual reality and to mask and to anesthetize what's going on in your real life, because you're afraid to face it. So you use these risk multipliers to make your life even more complicated and even more filled with anxiety, depression, and possibly suicidal ideations. So here's the solution. The solution would be to replace a risk multiplier with a success multiplier. Here's an example. Find meaning and purpose in your life. Find any interest. Find good friends. Read books. Nourish yourself with good food and education. practice managing and feeling your emotions. But here's your treatment plan if you choose it, because most people tend to move in this direction anyway. You want to mask all your feelings by drinking, by doing drugs, by gambling. Gambling, assuming you still have any money left. You want to participate in risky sex. You want to start fights. And sometimes you can combine these, right? So like you can drink and drive, or you can drink and then get into a fight. So mix it up a little bit. Have some fun out there. Let's not forget, you want to maybe overeat and you want to overspend, because there's nothing like financial distress to just ruin yourself and ruin your whole family. Then at some point, then you got to go on public assistance. Then you got to take money from me. And then I can't have these cool backgrounds with lions and stuff, So just don't worry. I'll pay for you because you want to make bad decisions. So basically, that's it. How to ruin your life. 5 easy ways. Number 1, train your brain for failure. Number 2, no physical activity. Number 3, never eat real food, and eat as much as you can once you get your hands on it. Number 4, make sure you isolate from other people. And number 5, if you have a problem, make sure you solve it with something else that will multiply the risk of you having even more problems. Thank you. I hope that this was worth your time and attention. I'm Joe Peroni. I will see you next time.